brief. I would have liked to have sat around for a little bit, and I say just listen, but normally I just don't listen. I end up commenting, and but that's what the nature of the center and this particular program, okay, to innovate, to create new opportunities, new spaces of opportunity. So I want to congratulate all of you. And you know, I always think about sort of the things, other things you could be doing. Like you could be doing other things potentially right now. And you choose to sort of engage in this sort of discourse and narrative. And that's not inconsequential. That's not inconsequential. In my experience, you know, I hear these bios sometimes, and I think, you know, I sort of don't recognize the person that they're. I don't mean that like because I'm so humble. I just, you know, when you're doing things and you're being part of things, I don't know that the people that I know who are actually being substantive keep track of things. They just say yes. They said, okay, I will. I don't have time, but I'll show up. And I just, in my experience, like people of great impact and importance, and they don't need any kind of honorific or title or degree. I've met mothers who were educated in the campos of Mexico that created things like the Mothers of East LA that saved hundreds of thousands of lives. So, you know, I appreciate kind of wherever this, Wendy said, this sort of vantage point, this optic that you have, the opportunity to innovate and to lead and to be substantive and dynamic and to contribute. To render a verse, you know, to make your voice heard. And I tell people that, you know, normally the younger people, I say, if you're not at the table, very often, unfortunately, you're on the menu. And did you not get that? I'll say it again for effect. You know, the world can be cannibalistic. And so I think it's important to sort of prepare yourself, and things like this help prepare you with a certain, you know, Audre Lorde mentioned speaking truth to power. Well, that's wonderful. You can speak truth to power unless you lack the vernacular for an emancipatory discourse. Yeah, I mean, I read a little ground sheet back in the day. And so I think it's important to be part of these things. And again, the people that I know, the people that have made tremendous impact in the way that sort of in the spaces that I've occupied are not people of great wealth, and they're not people of great pomp and circumstance. They're just people of great selflessness. Selflessness. Get it? Selflessness. People say, I'm a servant leader, but you better get behind me while I lead. Okay. I don't know how much. I don't get that contradiction. All right. Okay. So the people. So being particularly for the young people. I remember when I was young, and that was a joke. Thanks. Appreciate that. Thanks for the help. And you get invited to this, and then you become an organizer of this, and then you become a professor of this. And then you find yourself up here listening to a bio that you don't recognize. And that's how it works. That's how it works. So, you know, great public universities create spaces, okay, where great minds, different backgrounds, different optics, different vantage point, weigh in on important problems. You know, there's just a coincidence, but there's this new television series called Wisdom of the Crowd. Okay, I don't know it. I'm not a fan. I'm a fan. Piven's pretty good, you know, Jeremy. He's pretty good. But there's a book by a guy. I always mispronounce his name. It's like Kurowski, and he wrote a book called The Wisdom. Have you read it?
No, but I've heard.
Okay, yeah. So I read it. It's really good. And basically, his proposition is simple. And now they have a sitcom or CSI something predicated on this principle. But he says, you know, people like Baldwin and others talked about the talented 10th, the vanguard. In his case, he was talking about the African American intelligentsia. We need to elevate this small number to elevate the rest. This notion of the privileged, Masonic intellectual, right? This book says, you know what? There's no such thing. Like, nobody rises by themselves. There is no brilliant, spontaneous, organic genius. You learn from your mother, you learn from your father, you learn from your neighbor, you learn from the kid that throws you off the monkey bars. Next time, have a tighter grip on the monkey bar. Okay, you learn from all so that the crowd, okay, educates you. And that together, if we look at that jar at the county fair and say how many jawbreakers are in the jar, and you say 1,000, and you say 1,500, and you say 1, and together, our average guess is more accurate, meaning together a crowd is infinitely more wise. Together, a crowd can solve greater problems, and together, crowds have become these things called tribes and villages and societies and cities that thrive. So there's always greater wisdom in the crowds, and these type of manipulations of academic space that brought this crowd together has the capacity to innovate in a way that singularly we would not. And that's what great universities do. So I appreciate you being here. I really apologize because, like I said, I was going to listen to see how much I'm talking, and to be a part of this. And I appreciate the people that organize this, and I appreciate Vida stopping me on the elevator and saying, "Are you going to come give that introduction?" Because I have a lunch meeting with the guy who founded a bank. So I'm going to try to peel some of that off. Should I use different vernacular for that? I use more academic, but you guys, you feel me, right? You feel me all up in your neck and shoulders? Okay, and so I'm going to go press our case over there, and I hope that you will press our case in here. Okay, there's nothing more important than we do, okay, than bring different people together with different expertise to address problems and to create opportunities and solutions. We're a public university, okay? Let's address the crises and problems and opportunities of our public where we live in the space that we occupy. Okay, y'all have a great program.
Thank you.
Thank you, Wendy. Thank you all for being here. And I had a chance to speak to some of you a few weeks ago in that much smaller room, and I just want to offer a couple of thoughts and to congratulate you on being part of this program. I think about the title Interact-to-Innovate. And when sort of some of those things in my bio get read, I kind of look around and I try to think who are they talking about? Because when you're sort of volunteering and when you're saying yes and when you're accepting things that you shouldn't because you're already overwhelmed, you just find yourself in a lot of rooms with a lot of different people that are very innovative. And eventually, some of their genius and innovation begins to sort of infuse itself into you and inculcate into you, and then you, on occasion, become a little bit innovative yourself. And so I think that this principle of sort of the deliberate collision of different people is critical. There's a television series on right now, I might have said this earlier, called Wisdom of the Crowd. Well, there's a book by a fellow, I always mispronounce it, named Kirkowitz, called The Wisdom of the Crowd. And it has a very interesting premise. It says that sort of the notion of the sort of messianic kind of savior, the individual genius, is a bit of a myth. That when you look at groups and people and cultures that have succeeded and thrived, it's always been because of the collective wisdom of people willing to work together and interact and innovate and solve a problem. I've always said that in this role of president, which is a new role to me, but the role of sort of interacting and innovating and engaging and being thoughtful and sometimes being quiet to listen to others, not just to hear them, but to close your mouth and listen to them. And then to have the audacity to say, your idea is better than mine. A lot of people here, they just don't listen. And so when you're in these kinds of programs, you will hear, hopefully, and you will listen, and occasionally you will proffer an idea collectively that is superior to maybe the one individual's idea. And I have always thought, as Wendy said, I taught high school, and I grew up in LA, and I was saying to a guest, I grew up in LA, and I didn't grow up in the nice part of LA. I didn't grow up in the part, well, they made movies where I grew up, but they were like the violent kind of movies. And, they were movies of, murder and mayhem. And that's where I grew up. And so I just remember thinking that in order to try to make where we live, make where my family lives, make where my mom goes to church better, you've got to be involved, you've got to innovate, you've got to engage, you've got to be thoughtful. And I just think it's imperative for those in higher education. And when you look at social change, and I challenge you, look at social change in America, and invariably you will find the fingerprints of higher education on much of that change, driven by young people who see something, see it unjust, inequitable, and say, maybe we can do better. We're going to have
I'm going to leave this meeting and go to another meeting and give some remarks, and I'm going to go to another meeting on the South Deck, and we have another event. We have another event, March to Vote, right? Because young people say it's important to be engaged in our democratic process, and one of the ways that in other parts of the world, not everybody enjoys, one of the privileges of our democracy is to vote. And so I just tell you this, that these things that you're sitting in that chair and you're a lot younger than I am, and you have no idea how this interaction with others will do something, change something, introduce you to someone that then becomes a portal to something even greater, better still, where you're able to, by virtue of your engagement and interaction, facilitated by Dr. Lawrence and the University of Houston downtown, are able to improve our world. How novel. And so I encourage you to engage and to interact and to innovate. And then just when you think you don't have enough time, energy, stamina, volunteer for more. Volunteer for more. Okay? Because that's how we change things. That's how we change things. And I can tell you that you're in a city driven by change and vision, and a mayor and his leadership team and commissioners, and I dare say a university president, okay, who believes that we have to do more, and we will do more, and we will do better, and it will come because of the interaction, innovation, and vision of young people just like you. Some of us not so young, though. And so I can't tell you how proud I am. I hope that we have this program repeatedly. I'm happy to support it. I'm on the record. The dean is here. Dr. Lawrence is here. Okay, and that one day we have this event, and we have security at the door keeping out the 700 others who would like to join us. But we're too late to enter the room to interact and innovate with us. So on behalf of our university, our leadership, our vice presidents, our board of regents, our chancellor, all of whom are so supremely supportive, okay, this is how things happen, okay? A group, maybe modest, larger group, less modest at ideas, ambition, okay? And then you're part of something very, very special. And today, this morning, you are. Thank you all. Have a great program.